Good morning, everybody, and thanks to Jared and James there for some very interesting presentations. I've certainly been coming to CitA for 10+ years anyway, and all back then it was all BIM, BIM, BIM. That was certainly for me. That's all I kind of cared about back then. But I think that we've all seen certainly the last 5 years, 10 years, and the acceleration of different types of technologies. And even talking about BIM, the purpose of BIM is that digital twin. It's for operational purpose. That's where the huge saving and efficiency really is. And I think immersive technologies, AR, VR, the surveying, that's what really makes use of that design data and brings that into the digital twin. So things like as-built validation and verification, like Jared mentioned as well, the types of technologies that James spoke about, that just makes, again, the design information that is being generated by designers, and then the construction stage information that's being captured, it just makes that a lot more powerful. So I'm going to see where I can fit into that today as well. There we go. So just a couple of slides to go through. I will be doing a live demonstration of a piece of software that NTI Diatec support our customers with, and I've been working with for quite a number of years in industry and then on the consultancy side as well. So my name is Jonathan Reinhardt, work for NTI Diatec. Just quick slide, what NTI Diatec do. Some of our key services, we provide consultancy around BIM, Autodesk implementation and IT management. We also work with a lot of different softwares as well, and provide the software: Autodesk Construction Cloud, Revit, Chaos Group, SketchUp, NTI for Revit, and we have NTI have their own software developers as well, producing their own type of software for Revit plugins and that type of area. We also provide hardware as well: laptops, PCs, plotters, printers. So that's just NTI Diatec, just to give you that context. So I'm going to briefly speak about 3 technologies, and then I'm going to demonstrate one of them towards the end of my presentation. Just keep an eye on the time. So the first one I just want to mention from Autodesk, and this is currently not released. There is a waiting list. Some of you may have joined it back in November. I think I'm still on it myself. But just to kind of put out there the type of technologies that Autodesk themselves are working on, so that they're working on a tool called Workshop XR. So it's an augmented reality collaboration tool. So what that means is you can, multiple people can come in with virtual reality headsets on, whether that's wireless Oculus Quest or something similar, and they can be in the same model at the same time. They can be raising design issues against the design model. So that's something that's in progress. So they can raise different issues. For example, if it's on a BIM model or whatever type of model you might be working with, if it's stored in Autodesk Construction Cloud, you can raise different issues against that. So just to kind of give you that little bit of context, could be reviewing a design together, remote-based people, someone in Dublin, someone in London, someone in another location, within the same model, raising issue, reviewing that design model before it gets to site. So, looking for issues that potentially come up, but again, in that virtual environment, working together. So that's just kind of the first tool I want to mention. The second one I want to mention then is Twin Motion. So some of you may be aware, if you have access to the Autodesk AEC collection, with a lot of AEC design organizations would have, that's your suite of products. Just to mention that Twin Motion is also included in that, probably for the last 12 months or so. I've noticed some people didn't realize it was actually included in that. So you may have free access to a virtual reality software that's already in there. It's a plugin for Revit. Sits inside the Revit toolbar, and then it's an additional piece of software that you can bring your Revit model into. So just to make you aware of that. So that's 2 pieces of software. So the third piece of software I want to talk about then, and something I've used extensively myself in industry as well, and seen lots of other organizations use, is Enscape. So this is a product that NTI Diatec, we work with quite a lot, implementing this in different types of organization, whether that's design organization or from a construction organization as well. It has its place from that perspective. So where does Enscape fit in, for example? So design stage, so from a visual perspective, choosing paint color, color of tiles, floor finishes. getting earlier design sign-off from clients potentially. Quite a visual kind of tool to use at that initial stage. Again, not everybody reads 2D plans as well. Some clients are kind of mixed, I find, depending on the type of projects you're working on. But from a visual perspective, it gets more people involved in that conversation. You're presenting them a virtual reality model. It could be in a design team meeting in a room this side with key stakeholders in the project, getting the sign off on particular design, whether it's a student res, a hotel, data centers, bringing it up on a big screen in front of the key stakeholders is just helping decisions be made quicker as well. Enscape, there's lots of other tools that do that out there as well. So, Navisworks also has that visual aspect to it. Enscape looks really well, and I'll certainly say that for people that maybe, underwhelmed by maybe the visuals of Navisworks, Enscape certainly brings that kind of sharper edge to things as well. And, even things like changing lights, changing materials, and just choosing furniture, kitchen colors, all that kind of stuff. Again, getting earlier design sign off and even for external space as well. From a construction perspective, then Enscape can potentially be used, and I've seen this being used from a constructability perspective. So again, bringing in your federated models, potentially into Revit or whatever design tool you're working with, and bringing them into Revit and federating them, but then doing a constructability walkthrough potentially with various different stakeholders, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, the structural engineer, doing those virtual walkthroughs in an Enscape visual space to raise issues, for example. And I'm going to show you some of the tools that allow you to do that. And then from an operational perspective, using a tool like Enscape, it also uses the parametric information or the data inside BIM information. So you can click on a light fitting, for example, you can see who the manufacturer was, you can see what the particular BIM information is related to that. If I need to replace this lamp or this light or this fitting or this piece of furniture, who provided it, who supplied it. So as long as that data is in your BIM model, it will appear in the Enscape model as well. So again, from our operational perspective, potentially an FM person could walk through a model, click on an object, click on a door, click on a light fitting and get the required information for replacement or updating or refurbishment as required. Right, so they're just a couple of slides. I'm going to jump into the software. I can see I've got about 14 minutes. So we do have Revit running here in the background. So just to show you the other two tools I talked about, first one yet to be released. The second one, Twin Motion, also sits inside Revit as well. So that is available in here. But the one I'm going to look at now is specifically Enscape. The reason I suppose I'm going to look at it is because it's quite a nifty kind of tool because it sits inside Revit. It's a real-time renderer. So what that means is, it means if I make a change in a design model, a Revit model, move a duct, move a table, move a door, it updates inside Enscape straight away. It comes in with this fairly brief toolbar at the top. You can see tiny little Enscape toolbar. I've got a drop down there for my different views. So I'm currently got a 3D view selected. So if I have a 3D view created in my Revit model, I can open that up in my virtual reality environment. I can then turn on my headset as well. In this case, I've a Meta Quest 2. I can also plug that in as well, or I can connect. You can connect over the Wi-Fi with it as well. So again, it's just about using the correct tools to communicate what you're trying to communicate, whether that's design team, constructability reviews as well. So Enscape sits at the top there. So very simply, just to start Enscape, I'm hitting this button in the top left. What that's going to do is it's going to open up Enscape, and I do have it open in the background. So what I have here is, fairly straightforward structural model, some mechanical items in there as well. So some air terminals, some ducting occurring down there as well. So what I've done is created a series of different views. What this is going to allow me to do then is actually to navigate through this model. So what you'll notice is you're probably wondering why there's pink air terminals. So what I was actually able to do was create different material colors just to flag the different items in a building. So again, if you're in a design team meeting, if you're trying to explain a design to different stakeholders, different disciplines in a building, in a particular building project, you're able to bring them in here, sit around at that particular design team meeting, navigate through the model, discuss the particular items that need to be discussed. But what you can also do then is you can click on the item. So again, this is where the operational potential data comes into it as well. If you're looking for information regarding that particular object, sorry, I didn't have that one created. Right click on that one. Click on that particular air terminal. I can see all the data on the left hand side. You know, if there's Kobe data associated with it, if there's a height, if there's a particular spec, type of material as well, that will appear there. If I click on that object, all my information is coming up there. So that's just your Revit information being pulled into there as well. So again, just using that information to review in whatever particular stage of the project it's being used at. So again, with my model, I'm able to navigate through here. So if you forgive me, I am doing this without a mouse, but and just navigating through here just with my arrow keys on my keyboard, going to go up to the other floor. Again, just navigating around. So very straightforward to be able to get through your model. So again, this is just a mechanical model and a structural model. You know, constructability review. So potentially what you could do in here, and what I've seen being done, is something called collaborative annotation. So if I go to my collaborative annotation on the left-hand side, I may be in design team meeting. For example, design team meeting, we're reviewing, you know, particular conversations, discussion points are coming up. What I have here is I can raise issues on the left-hand side, and I can maybe go check ceiling height. Check ceiling height. I can raise an issue on that. What it does then is it generates an image of exactly where I've placed that issue. So that's what's going to happen there in the background. I can add in a comment. Sorry, my fast typing's not great. Check ceiling height. I can give that a status. It's a new particular status. So that's just raising a very simple issue inside that model. And I can add in further comments if I want to. Say check spec in there, add in a comment. So what that does is it creates an issue within there. So then you have an issues list on the left-hand side. So potentially what you have there is in your next design team meeting, you're able to come back to those issues, cycle through those issues, and it will bring you to those particular parts of the model as well. If the model has updated, the image will go back to the previous image from that design team meeting. So you're able to see then what was, you know, maybe historical or previous there, and then you can just close off those particular issues as well and press save. So again, it will list all your issues. It does allow you to export to BCF and import to BCF as well. So BCF, for example, tools like Autodesk Construction Cloud can export to BCF. You can import them in here as well. So raising issues from a constructability perspective. Other, you know, kind of tools that you can work with in here then as well. You can create videos, do all that kind of great stuff. But other elements that you can also work with in here, you can share an exe file. So what that means is, you know, you may be working with a subcontractor or particular designer. They don't have Revit, they don't have Enscape. You can simply just download your exe file. So it's an application file, might be a couple of hundred megabytes. Share it on your file sharing method, and they can download that without any software. So they don't need a license, they don't need Revit, they actually don't need Enscape. It will open up, and they'll be able to walk through and navigate through the model like you're seeing here as well. So that's one of the kind of neat little functions that I see being used quite a lot. What you can also do is then you can share a web version of that walkthrough. So what it will do is create a URL link. That URL link then can be opened in a web browser, and then you can navigate through the web browser. What I'll say, the difference between those two, the web browser, the graphics are just not as sharp looking for the web version because it's web hosted. The exe version, you get the very high quality that you see here in the background. So that's potentially from a constructability perspective, you know, from different disciplines. But I think once it gets to the architectural side of things, that's where Enscape, you know, it really has that high end finish. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to jump into another model. So it's going to load another model. So I actually have two Revit models open in the background. So I'm going to jump into the other one. It's going to load in now. So I've got a particular scene set up here. Just give that a second. I might give it a second click. There we go. So I've got furniture, all that stuff loading in. So just visually, just give it a second to catch up. Just when you're connected to a screen, it usually takes an extra second. So what you can see here now is, you know, I've got that real sense of realism in here. I can, you know, potentially show a new client what their office workers will be seeing from a particular window view, from a particular desk view. They're able to navigate through this. So again, the realism of this, even if you can see on the floor, for example, the shine on the floor, the gaps between the chevron floor itself. So really adding that realism once you know get your design and your detail added into that as well. All these objects that you see in here come in from a library as well. So there is a library that sits, inside the tool. So if I wanted to place an object, for example, I just come back into my Revit model very quickly, come back into my Revit model, navigate into the particular floor area that I want to go into, you know, whether it's in a particular office, particular room, come into my what's known as my asset library, and then I choose from my full suite of objects here. So there's lots of, you know, architectural type objects, couches, tables, etc., and other types of objects in there as well. So it's a very simple interactive tool to be able to use. As soon as I place it, if you're in the room with a client, for example, you're placing furniture, you're changing materials straight away, and you're getting potentially earlier design sign off, or you're showing users of the building potentially what that building's going to look like as well. Again, changing the floor material to maybe a tile, to a different timber floor, to a carpet. Again, getting those decisions made a lot quicker is you know, from a design perspective, just means you've got a happier client, and potentially you know, better sign off on you know, what materials are going to be used at an earlier stage as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks.